I met this guy, Liam, on a dating app, and things were going surprisingly well. We had been talking for a few weeks, and as it turned out, we even had a few mutual acquaintances. It made me feel a bit more comfortable about him. One night, after a few drinks, I was feeling social and impulsive. So, I booked a ride to his place, thinking it would be fun to finally meet him in person. When I arrived, we stood outside and talked for a while, and I was honestly surprised at how much better our chemistry was in real life. He seemed genuinely interested in me, and as the conversation deepened, I found myself opening up about my health struggles. In turn, he told me about his older sister, who had passed away from a condition eerily similar to mine. I could see the sadness in his eyes when he talked about her, and though I was curious, I didn't want to press him for details. Eventually, we went inside his house, and the moment I stepped in, I was hit by an overpowering stench, something so rotten it made my stomach twist. It smelled like death, like something decaying under the floorboards. I was still a little drunk, so I brushed it off, thinking maybe an animal had died somewhere in the walls. It happens, right? The house itself was a disaster. Piles of junk everywhere, like he never threw anything away. It looked less like a home and more like a storage unit filled with random clutter. His bedroom, in contrast, was surprisingly neat, almost too neat. The decor was soft, almost feminine, but that didn't bother me. We hooked up, and at some point, I drifted off into a deep sleep. The next morning, I woke up feeling completely sober, and the first thing I noticed was that the smell hadn't gone away. It was worse. It clung to everything. My throat felt dry, and as my eyes adjusted to the dim light, I started noticing things I hadn't seen the night before. The closet door was slightly open, revealing a neat row of hanging clothes, but something was off. I squinted, focusing on the garments, and realized that every single piece of clothing was for a woman. Not a single male item in sight. A sinking feeling hit me. Was I the other woman in some weird love triangle? Then my eyes landed on a large black binder sitting on the nightstand. It was thick, stuffed with papers. When Liam woke up, I jokingly asked, "So, what's in the binder?" His answer was bizarre. He told me it was every single episode of Golden Girls printed out. He said he read them at work and that it was the only show he ever watched. I forced a laugh, trying to shake off the unsettling feeling creeping up my spine. Trying to shift the conversation, I asked him what he did for work. It was a basic question, something I should have known by now, but instead of answering, he completely dodged it. Just changed the subject like I hadn't spoken at all. That's when I noticed the pillow I'd been sleeping on. There was no pillowcase, just the bare fabric, and it was stained, a dark faded brown color that looked too much like old blood. My stomach churned. The pattern was strange, splattered, almost like it had been coughed onto the pillow. I turned to him, forcing my voice to stay calm. "Hey, was this your sister's room?" I asked, glancing at the clothes again. He hesitated for a second before nodding. "Yeah, this was her bed too. I haven't changed or washed anything. It just makes me feel better to be in her space." Then he said something that made my blood run cold. "This is actually where I held her when she died, and you remind me so much of her. I really, really like you." I felt paralyzed. My mind raced, trying to find a way out of the situation without setting him off. He was watching me so intently, like he was searching for my reaction. Then, as if that revelation hadn't just shattered any sense of safety I had, he casually tried to hook up with me again. I had to leave. I mumbled something about needing to go home, making up a vague excuse. He seemed disappointed but didn't argue. As soon as I got outside, I walked as fast as I could until I was far enough away to call for a ride. The moment I got home, I locked my doors and tried to shake off the feeling of unease. I didn't completely cut him off though, maybe I should have, but something about the way he talked about his sister, he was clearly struggling with something dark. I couldn't bring myself to ghost him entirely. For a few weeks we kept in touch, casual messages here and there. I kept my distance, but I didn't want to be cruel. Then one night, while scrolling through my phone, I opened my Find My Friends app out of habit, and my heart stopped. There was his name. Liam had shared my location with himself, which meant that at some point while I was asleep that night, he had taken my phone, unlocked it, and done this without my knowledge. I immediately called him, furious. I didn't even try to stay calm. I let him have it, demanding to know why he thought that was okay. His reaction? Completely defensive. "I can't believe you think I would do that," he said, sounding more offended than guilty. "And you're seriously going to dump me right now? My cat just died." That was the last straw. I blocked him. But the moment I hung up, an awful thought crept into my mind. His attachment to things, his refusal to let go, his need to keep everything exactly as it was. And that smell, that horrific, rotting smell. I told myself it was probably just a dead animal. That's what I wanted to believe. But part of me still wonders what was really causing it. Let's hope I never find out, and let's hope I never see Liam again. When I was 19, I wasn't exactly the most confident guy when it came to dating. I didn't have much luck meeting women in person, so I ended up trying out Tinder. At first, it didn't seem to be going any better than real life, but after about 3 months of using the app, I matched with a blonde woman named Lisa. She was attractive enough that I assumed her profile was fake, probably just another bot. I ignored her message at first, but 3 days later, she messaged me again. That was odd. Bots usually didn't send follow-ups. Curious, I finally replied and took a closer look at her profile. It seemed pretty normal, nothing that screamed fake. Maybe I had actually gotten lucky. Lisa and I talked for about a month before she suggested I come see her. I hesitated. She lived nearly 8 hours away by car, and that was a long way to drive for someone I had never met in person. But I really liked her, and truthfully, I had been thinking about asking if I could visit. She kept bringing it up, and eventually, I gave in. By that point, I had no reason to doubt she was who she said she was. We had video chatted multiple times, and we talked on the phone almost every day. I had convinced myself that this was real. Things started to feel a little weird on the drive over. Lisa kept texting me, constantly asking where I was and checking that I was still coming. If I didn't reply within 30 minutes, she would send multiple follow-up texts, sometimes sounding annoyed. I chalked it up to nerves. She was probably just anxious about meeting in person. I was too, so I tried to brush it off. Finding her house turned out to be a challenge. The directions she gave were confusing, leading me through back roads made of gravel and dirt, surrounded by dense trees. It wasn't until midday that I finally pulled up to an old-looking house. It wasn't abandoned, but it was definitely in rough shape. One of the second-floor windows was boarded up, and the whole place had an eerie, neglected vibe. Her car, a red buggy she had often talked about, was parked in front of the garage. I pulled out my phone and sent her a message, letting her know I had arrived. She responded with nothing but a smiley face. As I stepped out of my car and approached the house, I felt eyes on me. Glancing up, I noticed someone peering through a window on the second floor. It gave me an uneasy feeling, but I told myself it was probably her dad. Lisa had mentioned that he sometimes stayed with her. Trying to shake off the weirdness, I knocked on the door. She answered almost immediately, smiling warmly, and even gave me a quick kiss before inviting me in. We sat on the couch, chatting about what we wanted to do that day. After a while, I asked about her dad. "You didn't tell me your dad was here. Was that supposed to be a surprise?" I asked casually. Lisa's face paled. She told me her dad wasn't there. In fact, she had been alone all day. A chill ran down my spine as I realized what that meant. I told her I had seen someone watching me from the upstairs window. Lisa's expression turned from confusion to fear. Without hesitation, she grabbed my hand and insisted we leave immediately. We rushed out of the house and into our cars. As we backed away, I called the police while Lisa pointed toward the same window. The figure was there again, watching us. Now that I had a better look, I could see he was older, frail, almost like he hadn't eaten in a long time. The moment he realized we had seen him, he moved away from the window. The police arrived about 30 minutes later. During that time, Lisa was shaking, mumbling to herself about how she should have kept the doors locked. When the officers searched the house, they found the back door hanging open. Whoever had been inside was gone, having escaped into the woods. They assured us that the house was empty, but it didn't make either of us feel much better. Lisa asked me to stay the night since she was too terrified to be alone, and I agreed. We decided to sleep on the couch in the living room, as her bedroom was right next to the room where the man had been. Lisa also retrieved a shotgun her father had left for protection, though she had never used it. She insisted on keeping it nearby. I told her it wasn't necessary, that the guy was gone. She disagreed, and looking back, I'm glad she did. Later that night, while Lisa slept beside me, I stayed awake watching television. I was still on edge, unable to relax. That's when I heard it, the sound of a doorknob turning in the kitchen. I didn't feel fear at that moment, just frustration. Flipping on the kitchen light, I grabbed the shotgun and turned toward the back door, and there he was. The same man stood on the other side of the glass door, his hand on the handle. He looked shocked, like he hadn't expected to be caught. Thankfully, the door was locked. A second later, he turned and ran back into the woods. I woke Lisa and called the police again. When they arrived, they searched the surrounding area but found nothing. They advised Lisa to stay somewhere else for the night, and she agreed. She would go to a friend's house, and I would head home. As I was leaving, I was on the phone with my brother, telling him everything that had happened. My car headlights illuminated the front of the house. Then, in my peripheral vision, I saw movement. My stomach dropped. That man was standing at the corner of the house, watching me. I didn't hesitate. I floored the gas pedal and got out of there as fast as I could. I didn't even bother calling the police again. Instead, I texted Lisa, warning her. She said she would contact them once more. I don't think Lisa ever went back to that house alone again. I had ended my relationship with my ex back in early 2021. It was my decision. I was frustrated with everything and ended up downloading a dating app. After a few days of swiping, I matched with a guy named Eric. He seemed interesting, charming, good-looking, and easy to talk to. We messaged back and forth for a while, and he suggested meeting up. I hesitated at first, but after a few weeks of talking, I felt comfortable enough to take the chance. Eric lived a couple of towns over and had recently moved back in with his mom after his father passed away. He said he was helping her with the house and finances, which I thought was admirable. It made him seem like a responsible and caring person. So, I took a rideshare to his place, and when I got there, I was impressed. His home was beautiful, one of those large vintage-style houses with intricate woodwork, a huge front porch, and even an old-fashioned jukebox in the living room. The bathroom sink had water flowing from spouts built into the mirrors. It was unlike anything I had ever seen. Before heading over, Eric had asked if I could stop by a store on the way. His mom wanted some wine, and he needed a few things too. I agreed, wanting to make a good impression. When I arrived at his house, his mother greeted me warmly. She was the epitome of Southern hospitality, sweet, polite, and welcoming. She even offered to drive me to an important job interview I had the next morning, which I thought was incredibly kind of her. The night went on smoothly. Eric and I had a few drinks, and one thing led to another. Everything felt normal, fun, even. Before we met in person, I had told him about my struggles with anxiety and depression, as well as the scars I had from past self-harm incidents. He assured me that he understood and was okay with it. He seemed empathetic, and I felt like I could trust him. The next day, I woke up early for my interview. Eric's mom drove me as promised, and I nailed it. I was offered the job on the spot. Excited, I texted Eric to tell him the good news. He responded with enthusiasm, telling me how happy he was for me. Everything still seemed fine at that point. But things took a turn soon after. One day, I slept for about 8 hours and woke up to dozens of messages from Eric, some on the dating app, some on Facebook. At first, they were harmless. Things like, "Hey, how's it going?" But as I scrolled through, I saw the messages had changed in tone. One of them made my stomach drop. It read, "Those scars on your arms. Yeah, I wouldn't have dated a cutter anyway. Most of them are pathetic and need serious help. Might as well keep doing it since it seems to be your only friend." I couldn't believe what I was reading. The same person who had acted so understanding now turned into someone cruel and hateful. I blocked him immediately and posted a warning about him on my social media, hoping to alert anyone else who might be talking to him. Shortly after, I received a friend request from a woman named Laura. She introduced herself as Eric's lesbian best friend. As we talked, she revealed some disturbing truths. First of all, she wasn't a lesbian. Eric had lied about that. In fact, she had been dating him until just before he started talking to me. He had told her that I was the lesbian, and apparently he had been seeing us both at the same time. Then she dropped another bombshell. His real name wasn't even Eric. He had been going by his middle name. When I searched his real first name online, I found a string of disturbing charges, including some involving child exploitation. But that wasn't even the worst part. Laura told me that after she broke up with him, Eric began stalking her. He would ping her phone's location, send her messages asking why she wasn't leaving her house, and even told her to kill herself. She had already gone to the police. She sent me screenshots of his messages, and it was clear that something was seriously wrong with him. He was manipulative, aggressive, and his moods shifted unpredictably. Then, I got another friend request, this time from an account with a generic name like Mike. Almost immediately after, I received a message. "Hey, it's Eric. How's your job at Centrix Global Solutions?" Panic shot through me. He knew where I worked. The office building itself was secure, but the parking lot wasn't. I started carrying pepper spray and called my dad, who had been in law enforcement for years. He advised against carrying anything like a bat since it could be used against me, but he agreed that pepper spray was a good choice. He also warned me that while the police might not take online harassment seriously at first, repeated messages could be considered stalking and should be reported. For weeks, I was on edge. I worked late shifts, often leaving after midnight, and every time I walked to my car, my heart pounded. I started parking as close to the building as possible and kept my keys and pepper spray ready. I didn't tell my coworkers at first, not wanting to seem paranoid, but eventually, I confided in one of them. She started walking me to my car whenever we worked late together, which made me feel a little safer. Thankfully, I never ran into him again. Not in person, at least. But I moved to a new apartment, changed my job a few months later, and made sure my online presence was more private. I never accepted random friend requests again. Looking back, I realize how easily people can hide who they really are. If something seems too good to be true, it probably is.